Hello everybody, my name is Charlotte Carson. I'm the director of Look. I'm registered blind myself. We're here to support visually impaired children and their families. Very big welcome to this Look Tech support event. We wanted to put on this event for you because we're on lockdown, obviously. We're all at home. So many questions are coming up for families and young visually impaired people right now about learning, how to access learning, and there are so many questions around tech, getting the right support and knowing what's the best thing out there. So from the other events we've done, we've learned that parents and young people want to know more about technology. So we've titled this event, the tech that you did, the assistive tech at home that you didn't know you already had. So that's going to be one of the themes of tonight. We're keeping this a general introduction to talking about technology and the support on offer. And we've got a fantastic panel for you tonight of all the experts from the major charities who can support you with technology. And in a minute, we're going to go and hear from them. But I just wanted to say a massive welcome to you all from everybody at Look. I hope you're all right. I know on the news tonight, it's been announced that we have a further 3 weeks of lockdown. So we don't know anything about when schools are going to go back. And we're in this limbo land. So I just wanted to reach out to all of you and say that Look is here. All of the charities in the visual impairment sector are here to help you. So I hope this event is going to be of use and have helped you to know that we're all here. I'm going to hand over to Ellen Williams now, who's going to tell you some guidelines.
Thanks, Charlotte. So I'm Ellen, I'm the events coordinator for Look. The way that the session is going to work is that Charlotte will be facilitating and we'll have our panelists who will be answering the questions. So if any of you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat and we will come to answer the questions that are submitted in the chat in turn. And the final thing I wanted to say was that we are taking notes during this call and we'll make those into like a sort of resource guide after the session. So we'll share that all with you as well. So don't worry too much about sort of making notes or writing things down as we go. We'll supply the notes for you afterwards. Back to you, Charlotte.
Okay, so we've got a fantastic panel tonight who have kindly offered to help us. So I'm going to go and introduce everybody. Could you say your name and who you are and what you do?
Hello, I'm Jane Sharp. I'm a QTVI and I work for a local authority vision impairment service.
Teresa from AbilityNet.
Hi, my name's Teresa Loftus from AbilityNet. I'm the assessment team manager for the assessment services at AbilityNet. And that means that I'm involved with delivering disabled student assessments and workplace assessments. So the disabled student assessments are a government funded scheme for students going into higher education. So we look at the assistive technologies and support that can be funded for them going into universities, for instance. So yes, please do investigate us if you have the opportunity at some point, but you need to get your DSA 1 letters from Student Finance.
Great, thank you. Is Alex there?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm the Advice and Information Officer at AbilityNet.
Great, thank you. Guide Dogs, are you there?
Good evening, everybody. My name's Lucy, and I'm the Technology and Grant Manager for Guide Dogs for Children and Young People.
Thank you. RNIB, Karine.
Hello everyone, my name's Karine Sutherland. I'm a QTVI and a QTMSI by trade, and I now work for the RNIB as the head of Children, Young People, Families and Education Service for the UK.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. Thomas Pocklington Trust, TPT.
Hello, I'm Darren Pascal. I'm Technology Information Champion at Thomas Pocklington Trust.
Thank you. And joining us as well today, we've got two of our Look mentors. And for anyone who doesn't know, Look runs a mentoring service where we match young people with an older visually impaired mentor. And they've kindly offered to come, and they are our tech gurus that we always go to ask them tech questions. So, Kapsa, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
And Kavsa, where do you're a Look mentor, where do you work as well?
I work at Vision Foundation as a Grants and Partnerships Officer.
Thank you. And Ben?
Hey everybody, thanks for having me, Charlotte and everyone else at Look. My name is Ben Muster-Rose. I'm a software engineer at the BBC, working on the iPlayer app. So we build iPlayer for iOS and Android. I'm registered blind. I had some useful vision for about 14 years, so I have a sort of concept of what things look like, but I've been totally blind for about 15 years. I've been volunteering with Look for about 3 or so years as a mentor. I'm really looking forward to helping people where I can, having a bit of a chat, and maybe learning 1 or 2 things myself.
Great, thank you very much.
Robin from the RNIB as well, here.
Hi, it's Robin Spinks here from RNIB. I'm Senior Innovation Manager, working with blue chip companies on partnership projects around technology. I'm also visually impaired myself. I have albinism, so the vision that I have is entirely normal to me, but I'm told it's about 10% of what someone can see with full sight. So yeah, really looking forward to the conversation this evening, and thank you all for joining.
Brilliant, thank you, and thank you, panelists. We're really looking forward to hearing from you all. And this is the first event like this we've ever done at Look. And we've been talking amongst ourselves with the panel and saying, you know, there will be follow-up events, hopefully, that we'll do. If we find out what you want to hear about, yeah, we can do other events after this, because this is going to be such a big success. Right, we're going to get going with the questions, because there's a lot to get through. I think the first question, actually, I'm going to go to Ben. You had a question.
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes without saying that good old COVID has changed a lot of things for everyone. But actually, one of the things that I find, at least, is when you talk to people, everyone's sort of got their own little anecdotes. So I guess the first question would be, how has COVID changed the way you work, and what issues are people finding as a result of that?
RNIB, can we go to you first?
Sure. Hi, shall I pick that one up? So yeah, we have managed to quite successfully transition a whole number of people from being based in centres and offices to being home-based. So got a huge number of staff now working from home, delivering the services remotely. We've seen a big increase in the volume of our helpline inquiries, and we've also taken additional steps to opening extra hours on Saturdays. We've discovered that a lot of people like and find it convenient to call in on a Saturday. Yeah, just really making sure that we've got as much content available for people as possible, promoting a number of things like our technology grant scheme, and also the Orbit Braille display, and making sure that people have got the chance to be connected, to have information, and to be able to live their lives as independently as possible. We've had lots of inquiries around shopping and access to online grocery stores, and we're working with all the major supermarkets to make sure that that situation can be as good as possible, and also to ensure that people have got the support that they require. So it's been a really busy time for us.
Yeah, thank you. AbilityNet, how's it affected you?
I guess I would echo a lot of things that Robin said. So we've had to transition from office working to home working, and certainly for me that's been a really interesting experience, because I'm used to going to work in an office every day, and now my commute from my living room to my office is like about 2.5 minutes, so it's quite nice. And the needs of our clients now have got more severe, I'd say. We have lots of people who are panicking because of COVID-19 and they don't know what to do, and because we're a free phone number, they called us. So on Tuesday night I had someone who was very confused by the fact that they were identified as a vulnerable person, but they didn't know how to get their supermarket to give them a shopping slot. We've had calls about trying to get help from people in the hospitals because around COVID, and there is usually a lack of confusion. So about 10% of the calls we now get are not really within our remit, but we try to help them anyway because we do a lot of signposting. And I think slowly but slowly we're getting used to this new way of working, even if we don't really like it.
Yes, and we've definitely got it for the next 3 weeks. We know that, don't we?
Certainly.
Yeah, and it's helping people as much as we can. And how's it changed in terms of the support you offer with the tech? Is it all online?
Sure. So we've got 300 volunteers who would normally go out and see people face to face through our IT Can Help volunteer system. Now we took the decision about a month ago that we were not going to do any face to face work. However, we can still support people over the telephone, and if people are able to connect, if our volunteers can connect to a client's computer using software called TeamViewer, we can help them remotely. But we do understand that we can't do certain pieces of work. So, for example, we can't change someone's ink cartridge now on their printer because that would actually mean going in to see them. But if they're having problems with their email, as long as they're happy for us to connect remotely, we can go in and sort that out.
Yeah, great, thank you. I think that's just the message everyone wants to get across, isn't it? That services are still operating. Lucy from Guide Dogs, how has it changed for you and the support you're offering, and what issues have you come across?
I suppose Guide Dogs as a whole, obviously the service offers had to change because we do a lot of face-to-face work. But in terms of the technology service, the delivery hasn't changed that much because we already had an online offer, and our information and guidance service has been done over the phone and by email. But we've seen a big increase in interest in our grants programme, particularly since the schools have shut. So, we offer funding towards tech at home. It can cover anything from iPads through to laptop packages to refreshable braille software. So with that in mind, we know that there are a lot of parents out there who are worried because of getting to that technology to support their kids at home. We are adapting our process, we're adapting our criteria to try and speed that up and get that equipment out quicker. So that's the changes that we're making at the moment.
Thank you. Darren from TPT?
Hi, yeah, so again, not really that much to add. It's been a sea change for absolutely everybody. One of the biggest challenges we found, even though at least half of our organisation were already home-based before this, was actually making sure that everybody was all up to speed with all these remote teleconferencing things, but Teams and Zoom and the like. It is pretty much business as usual. And the main thing that I'm responsible with the technology work is our Vital Tech website, which offers impartial guidance around assistive technology that could be useful for blind and partially sighted people here in the UK. And it's a website which is great because it's online. So it's very much still up and running, and we're still able to make changes and modify it and update as we need to. What's a real challenge is actually some of the work that we've been doing in collaboration and in partnership with organisations, large and small, around the country, has proved more challenging because, of course, it's a really difficult time for so many of us at the moment, so there are some cases, of course, where you might be looking to get support from, say, your local organisation that supports blind and partially sighted people in your area, and some have been really quite drastically affected by this. So I'm sure we'll come back to this, I'm sure. But if you're not already in touch with or aware of the sort of services that might be on offer from your local society, then it's well worth at least making sure that you've got their details. There are a number of ways that you can find them. The Visionary website, of course, and RNIB Sightline and so on. So pretty much.
Thanks, Darren. And what also to remember is that we will link to all of these organisations, and we know that a number of local sight loss charities do have assistive tech officers that can help you as well. So we will link to the RNIB website and Visionary so you can find your local society. Great, thank you everybody. So that's a picture of the palace and what's going on for your services. I'd actually like to introduce a lovely parent now, Sian. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on for you and your son, and how's home life been affected, and are you accessing your technology and home learning?
Okay, so I'm Sian from North Wales. I've got two sons. My youngest son, Ellis, is 11 and he's in year 6. And Ellis is severely visually impaired. He's got albinism and he can read large print. He can use his kind of Zoom technology on the tech he has. Obviously, like most people, we're finding it very difficult to structure the day with homeschooling and working from home and general worrying and trying to organise shopping and things like that. So it's difficult to find a balance of kind of supporting your children and then more the added thing of finding the correct right technology. But you know, I work in technology, but so in the past we've put lots of tech in place already for Ellis, and we've had help from the organisations that are represented here. We've had iPad that was initially funded by the RNIB, and we got information from that from our local site kind of charity, North Wales Society for the Blind. We've had a laptop with Zoom text from guide dogs. This was all in place for us before the lockdown. And Ellis uses his iPad to talk to his friends and things like to keep connected with his friends, and he also uses it to access things like e-books, which we got through the RNIB Bookshare, so he can read large prints. And I think your QTVI has to set that up, so somebody might be able to talk about that later. And we have Ellis uses lots of audio books as well from Audible, have got free books at the moment, and I know that in North Wales there's a borrow box thing where you can go on your library and you can get ebooks and also audio books. So Ellis uses those things on his iPad. The iPad features quite heavily in Ellis's daily regime. And we also use, like in Wales, there's probably equivalent in England and Scotland of somewhere called Hub, which is a learning platform in Wales. And in that we've used, all children in Wales have an Office 365 account, and Ellis has used the Microsoft tools in that. He uses things like Dictate and Immersive Reader in Word to help him, and that's free. And parents really need to know about that you can get this technology for free that already has inbuilt accessibility tools. And Ellis finds the Dictate tool in that really useful.
That's amazing. I mean, we don't get that in England, as far as I know. In Wales, you get free. I believe Office.
In Scotland, I think it might be worth finding out in case there is something like that, because in Wales, not everybody knows about it, and obviously. It would be useful for the organisations that are represented here to channel that information to parents.
Yes, we'll link to that.
And Ellis has been using that. It's been on some online webinars with Look and things like that to keep, and those sorts of things are keeping him occupied and providing structure. So he went on the Look webinar last week where he spoke with I think Ellen moderated it, and Chris, and there was Ellis and a couple of other small children on it, and he really enjoyed that. And he's also done something similar with Royal Society for Blind Children, so getting Ellis to use tech. What he's done in school is they sent him home with like a pack of large print materials initially, because I think the school kind of had to quickly get that together. And initially, because his teaching assistant wasn't there, it wasn't ideally suitable. Fortunately, I had a day to send it back, and they sent it back in a better format. So he's come back with that. And my concern now is Ellis is moving to like Google Classroom, and from my eldest son experience, he isn't visually impaired, there's loads of scanned PDF documents on Google Classroom, and it's really inaccessible. So what I think parents need, or teachers need, and parents could steer them towards them, are resources to show staff, teachers, how to make accessible materials in Google Classroom and Microsoft, whatever platform they're using, so that the teaching materials that are put online now are accessible for children. Otherwise, they're not going to be work within screen readers and Zoom technology, and the colours will all be wrong.
That brings it, alive. That one of the massive issues is access to learning, PDFs. If things are moving to Google Classroom, I think what we're going to do, we're going to come back to that in the discussion and link to sources of support around PDFs and Google Classroom. We've been gathering information before the event on this, so thanks. I'd like to just ask Kareen and Jane, QTVIs, following on from what you said, Sean, about access to QTVIs and VI services now. Can you give us a bit of a sum up of what's the picture nationally? And then Jane, maybe you can talk a bit about your service and how is that affecting families? Kareen.
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. It's really good to hear from you, Sean, as well, to hear the personal side of how it's impacting families. We're getting information in all the time from education professionals in the sector, and also from families about how it is impacting on services. And as we've all identified, it's unavoidable that things have changed and ways of working have had to shift. We are still gathering a full picture of how it's affecting services, and it's fair to say that there is some regional variation on that at the moment, but RNIB are working closely with other organisations such as VIEW, which is the Vision Impairment Education Workforce Organisation, and other charities to build a fuller picture and to see how we can support professionals. Most local authority sensory support services are continuing to run, but in a distance format. By the nature of the work, that is quite difficult to provide the similar support. But services are getting creative. There has been some increased use of social media and some platforms to help with homeschool liaison where appropriate. Some services have updated their local offers on the web, on their local authority web pages, with details of activities and programs that they can use at home to try and keep children occupied and to structure some of the learning. But we would share some of the issues that Sean has raised, that we have concerns about how adapted materials are getting home, whether they're getting home and who's providing those. And the technology that children are used to using in schools, is that also going home for them to continue to use, to continue to access, whilst acknowledging that some of the new online platforms have some significant accessibility issues. We also know and suspect that some sensory support services staff will be redeployed to other roles within local authorities. As I say, we're still building that national picture, but those are some of the trends that are coming out at the moment. So I'll hand over to Jane for a specific in her local area.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kareen. Yeah, in my local area, we do fit into that spectrum that you've described, Kareen. So our initial priority was to get accessible learning packages set up for the high need pupils, and we're sort of moving away from that now to giving ongoing support to schools, because schools are obviously still providing work for the students, and we're giving ongoing support to parents as well, so if they're having issues at their end. And we're doing obviously remotely, but we're doing whatever we can to address any issues wherever they come from. We're providing reformatted materials for students that are in resource base, and on a sort of limited basis for other students where there are issues there. So the QTVI is really liaising between the school and parents where we're sort of alerted to any issues and addressing those whatever they are, and whatever input is needed other than face-to-face work. We're being more flexible and we're doing that. So I think the liaison role is really important at the moment, working between schools and home. And I think that obviously we're going to hear a lot of really exciting technology opportunities later on in this webinar. And I think if people do hear things that they think will work for them, I think their QTVI will be really interested to hear about that, and they'll be able to offer them some support and introduce anything that's new to the child. And very importantly, they'll be able to develop a programme whereby they can carry on using those skills and developing the skills further when the schools do go back.
Great, thank you. One issue that has come up, and I know for Lucy at Guide Dogs this has come up a lot for the Guide Dogs team, is that we hear that some children don't have any tech at home, that the schools, they've gone home from school without any of their technology. And I just wanted to ask both of you, for parents, if you are facing this problem, what should they do about it?
So shall I answer this first? As I said, the QTVI role is really important in liaison, and I think the QTVI is going to be the person who can work with the schools to discuss with them how we can get that technology home. And certainly that's something that the QTVIs in our service have been doing, working between schools and homes. Our service has some equipment which we have been loaning out as well, and there'll be other services in the country that will be doing that, and there'll be other authorities where it's mainly the schools that own the equipment, and in those cases I think the QTVI is going to be the key person to get that equipment home.
Right, so contact the QTVIs in your local VI service.
Yeah, I would just say, sorry Charlotte, if you're not sure how to get hold of your QTVI, or that's more difficult now that schools are closed and services are operating differently, we do have a link that Ellen will be sending out on how you can get hold of your local QTVI through a link on our website, so that should enable that. And they are really the linchpin between all of these parties to aid communication and try and get these things resolved as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Lucy from Guide Dogs, have you got anything you'd like to add there?
No, I completely agree with what's been said. I mean, it's about having that conversation with your QTVI. I mean, we strongly recommend that the equipment that you have in school is replicated at home. Our children are in a very stressful situation at the moment, and sometimes bringing new equipment in and new ways of accessing tech can be stressful for them. So where possible, we would really keep the continuity going, but we understand at the moment that may not be possible. So if it is a real no, then you're going to hear later some options that are available to you. And I would also, recommend that if you know what your child has at school, so understand how your child's equipment and tech is set up, so you have that information, and then explore that. At the moment, we have a number of suppliers that are extending their licenses, so you can get the trial versions, but they're extended for longer. So it may be that you can adapt the tech that you've got to make it similar to what your child is currently using at school.
Great, thank you. And that moves us on to the next sort of topic, which is the tech that we didn't know that we had, which is accessible. So lots of mainstream tech has got inbuilt accessibility into it. So let's just have a bit of an overview on what's on offer, and what do we need to know about it really, I think it would be great to start with Robin. Are you going to tell us a bit about iOS?
Yeah, thank you very much. So what I think, as was mentioned, a really good point is that often there's technology that's in the home that you might not necessarily think of as being accessible. But if you explore a little bit in the settings, quite quickly you can discover that it can be made usable by someone who's blind or partially sighted super quick. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to talk to you about some examples of that. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I've got my iPad, and I'm a little bit like Shan's son Ellis. I tend to do everything on my iPad, and it really is a portal for me into lots of accessible information. So I'm going to be using my iPad. You don't need to see it because I'll actually describe every single thing that I'm doing, but I'll tell you where I'm going to go in menus. And what I'm going to do is just take an absolutely bog standard iPad with built-in accessibility features, and really, really quickly, we're going to make that magnify, we're going to change the text size, and we're also going to get it to talk as well. So first of all, I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the settings menu on the iPad. And with the most recent version of iOS, the operating system for iPad and iPhone and iPod Touch, you don't even need to go anywhere beyond the settings menu, because accessibility, good news is it's moved up in the world. You used to have to go to settings, then general, then accessibility. Now you just go to settings, you go straight to accessibility, and you're there, which is brilliant. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on something called Magnifier. Now this is not magnification, this is actually a different thing. And it appeared a couple of years ago. Some people may or may not know about it. When I turn on Magnifier, what that does is it essentially turns your iPad or your iPhone into a digital video magnifier. So it lets you use your device's camera to quickly magnify your surroundings. When enabled, triple click the top button to start Magnifier. So it's really, really easy. If I turn that on, and then I triple click either the home button, which is the big button on the face of traditional iDevices, or the power button on the kind of more recent iPhone 10 style devices, triple clicking that will basically toggle on and off the magnifier. And when you turn it on, it will simply allow you to use a slider to magnify what you're looking at, to make things bigger, to change the contrast, even to change the color background. So if you want to have black on yellow, or blue on black, or white on black, or red on black, you can change that to suit your own requirements. And the great thing is it's built in, you don't need to download anything at all. You can turn it on literally, I timed it and it took about 3 seconds to turn it on. It's fantastic. And then you toggle it on and off to use it whenever you need it. Lots of partially sighted children and adults, super useful. And even if your child doesn't have their own iPad, if they've got mum or dad's, for example, or a family iPad, because that's a toggle, you can turn it on, and as long as the person is using that triple click motion, that will allow them to turn on and off the magnifier, which is great because you're not likely to turn that on inadvertently, doing 3 clicks, which you need to do in quick succession. You're really only going to do that if you're trying to turn on that utility. You can also...
That's built in, is it, to every device?
It's built into every iPhone, iPod Touch, iPad, and it's all there for you. So that's the great thing about some of this stuff. It's there without you even knowing about it. And I should add, RNIB actually did quite a lot of advocacy with Apple, probably as far back as 9-10 years ago. I was heavily involved in it myself. And this was about building in solutions that would work for everybody. So we're really happy to see a lot of our recommendations inside the settings menu of the iPad. So there's a few others there that would be useful. There's bold text. I would like to suggest that that's helpful for every person who uses an iPad, whether they're visually impaired or not. So turn it on and just keep it on because it makes the whole thing easier to read. You've got little things like button shapes, and you've got differentiate without color. You've got increased color contrast. You have a number of different things in there that you could experiment with to make it easier to see. I'll also mention something in the display settings, which is dark mode. as of last September, all iDevices have dark mode. You can turn that on or off. You can have light mode or dark mode. Dark mode just means that you can have bright text on a dark background. I'm actually holding it up so you can see it there. But it essentially is a very dark grey background with white text and a black background beyond that. It's lovely, much easier to use, much easier on your eyes. But I want to show you one kind of final thing in iOS that's super useful, and I think is probably the one thing that you could take away today about iOS that's really useful. If you go into Settings and Accessibility and scroll right down to the bottom of the menu, you'll find something called Accessibility Shortcut. That allows you to use either the Home button or the Power button as a toggle, again, 3 clicks. And what I've done is I've set the Accessibility Shortcut to VoiceOver. So guess what happens when I triple click my Power button? I'm going to do it right now.
VoiceOver on.
VoiceOver comes on.
2 missed FaceTime.
So I've got VoiceOver on. That's instantly turned my iDevice into an accessible one that someone who's blind can use. What I'm going to do very briefly, if I flick left and right on the screen with my finger, anywhere.
Keyboard, work chat, Outlook, baby flashcard, pause events, Instagram.
Now, literally, if I'm flicking left or right, what the last thing that has been highlighted is spoken out, and it's super easy to use. I want to show you how you can make that a bit faster. So if you imagine twisting your thumb and your forefinger, I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, it'd be the same thing for your left hand. And what you're going to do is twist it as if you're turning an old radio knob on an old-fashioned radio. And you're going to just place it anywhere on the screen and twist it.
Characters, words, speaking rate.
Now you've heard speaking rate. I've lifted my fingers off the screen. I'm now going to take one finger and flick upwards.
60%, 65%, 70%.
So the speaking rate gets faster. Guess what happens if I take the same finger and flick downwards?
65%, 60%, 55%.
The speech gets slower. One final thing, take the thumb and finger again, place it on the screen, and I'm going to twist until I hear the word language.
Audio ducking, language.
I've heard language, lifted my hand away from the screen. I'm going to again take that forefinger and flick upwards.
English, Australia.
And I've now changed the voice to English Australia, which is one that I love because it's super easy to listen to. So that's a very, very, very quick introduction to some of the things, and only some of them, that are available on iOS on every device. We run a whole day course in iOS accessibility. I've just given you a very, very quick top-line overview, but do check out the accessibility shortcut. We've also got some older videos on YouTube that show you how to do this in more detail, and there are other resources that will be shared with you in due course. I'm going to triple click now, and it's turned VoiceOver off, and that enables me to hand the device to another member of the family who doesn't need accessibility.
Thank you very much. That was a really comprehensive overview. I'd like to move on and ask Alex to tell us a bit more about Windows.
So like Robin said, for the Apple, for the iOS, Windows has got some really, really nice pieces of technology installed. So the first thing is, if you want to get the ease of access settings up, you just press the Windows key and U for uniform. You go into the ease of access menu. Now there are lots of different things you can look at, but thankfully Vision is at the first one, is at the top. So you've got display, cursor and pointer, magnifier, color filters, high contrast and narrator. So looking at the display, you can, for some people, all they want to do is just to make their text a little bit bigger. So instead of 100%, it's 121%, for example. There's a slider and you can drag the text. Or if you want to, you can actually make everything on the screen that little bit bigger. You can also decide that you want to adjust the size and shape and color of the cursor. So for some people, having a white cursor doesn't really help them out, and they'd like a black cursor, and this makes it a lot easier to see. You've also got, you can also invert the cursor so it's black, or if you want to, you can go for a multicolored cursor. You've got Magnifier. Now the Magnifier is quite good considering it's a freebie. You can magnify up to, let's have a look here. You can actually magnify up to 1600%, although if you magnified up to that amount, you probably wouldn't be able to see much and it would be quite blocky. But if you're just looking for a bit of extra magnification from time to time, then the Windows Magnifier is really useful. My eyesight isn't great, although I can see to get around, but sometimes if I just hit the Windows logo key and plus or minus, I can zoom into certain areas of the screen. What I would also say is that if you want to make changes, don't go making all sorts of wholesale changes, because when you want to get it back to the original default, it's quite difficult. So make little changes and then decide whether you want to or not. Now Windows 10 has also got some really nice color filters on. So for example, if you decide that you want to have a red-green filter instead of the normal one, you can do so, and it just changes the way that the screen looks to have a bit more red and green in. And you've also got blue and yellow as well. Or if you want to, you can just have grayscale or inverted. For some people, all they want to do is to have high contrast settings. Now, with high contrast settings, if you just click it on, and you can decide what color you want the text, what color you want hyperlinks, and what color you want disabled text. So if you decide, and I should say that's the high contrast black setting. So there are 4 settings. One's high contrast 1, one's high contrast 2, and you've also got black and white. And if you just want to have a basic high contrast setting, then within 5 minutes of going into ease of access, you can certainly get what you want. The last, and just the last thing before I go, is called Narrator, and it's a basic screen reader. It is a little bit clunky, but if you just want something to help you read your work, then I would say, yeah, have a little play around with it. We've got lots of information on accessibility options on My Computer My Way, which is part of the AbilityNet website as well.
Brilliant, thank you. It's very hard to squeeze a lot of this information into short, bite-sized chunks. So thank you, you did brilliantly. And so did Robin, because there's so much on there. And I think what we want to say from this is that we will send you the guides and signpost you to all the relevant places in all the different organisations. Everybody's got help to offer. And Darren, I know you've got a lot to say on Android, because Android has, of course, the same and similar features to iOS. But do you mind, Darren, at this time, if we can just signpost people to say that on Android devices, there are the same accessibility features as there are on Apple iOS?
We can certainly do that. Basically, the main key point is go and look inside settings.
Accessibility.
Yes.
And accessibility, and look in there. All I did there, I just picked up a phone that I've got here that there's nothing special about it. It's an Android phone. There's no speech on it, no accessibility. I picked it up, the screen was on, and I pressed in the 2 volume buttons, held them in for a couple of seconds, and it came up talking. So each of these platforms, they've got their own kind of way of kicking in and experimenting with things. Don't be shy. Go and have a look in settings, accessibility or access. Just you know, play around and see what's there.
That's brilliant, thank you. And I think, Ben, can you tell us briefly about some of the free assistive tech that people can look at as well?
Yeah, definitely. So just really quickly, you know, obviously it's great that lots of platforms have built-in assistive technologies, but actually increasingly you can find third-party options that are free as well. So I'm a massive proponent of NVDA, which is a free screen reader. I use that at home and at work as well. So definitely a really powerful product for me. There's also a really interesting magnification tool called Glassbrick, which is free as well, that not that many people, I don't think that many people know about it. So definitely, definitely give Glassbrick. So definitely give those two a go. They do tend to work fairly well in tandem with each other. So if you need speech and magnification, or even the majority magnification and just a little bit of speech, that is a viable combination to use. And again, lots of tips about how to get the most of your screen readers, what you should change, some things about what you shouldn't change as well, but we're going to have all of that stuff written out for you in the sort of companion leaflet that we'll be sending out tomorrow.
Brilliant, thank you. And you're also provided us with information on these free trials and extended ones from different speech software.
Yeah, definitely. So we touched on this earlier, but what you've found is that assistive technology companies are starting to offer extended trials. So usually it's only sort of 30 days or a 40-minute trial, but you can very easily get 90-day trials now. And also JAWS is heavily discounted too. I believe you can get it for £95 in the UK now if you just need a home license. So lots of things to look into there if you want discounted or free assistive technology.
Brilliant, thank you. And just before we move on to talk about leisure fun stuff, and then we're going to open up the questions to everybody else who's here, and you can ask whatever question you like. Robin, is there anything we need to add onto this bit about mainstream embedded accessibility?
I think that's a good summary, guys, all round. I think one of the things I would say is that, like many aspects of technology, this is changing all the time. And luckily for us, it's actually growing. So what you tend to find is that when you look at the next version of Windows or Android or iOS, you tend to find that there's actually more accessibility features, which is a really good news story, but it's something to keep abreast of. You know, features are being added all the time with each major release, and I think, as Ben said, you know, we'll do our best to make sure that we can share a good overview of that with everyone. But yeah, do keep in touch as the platforms continue to grow and develop accessibility wise.
Great, it's really a complete game changer. I think our lives have changed so much since all of this has sprung up. Lucy, would you like to add anything here from Guide Dogs?
I mean, what you talked about has been fantastic. I think it's a really good opportunity to sort of let children explore other ways of accessing technology, and all those skills are fantastic to go into their toolkit. So yeah, it's embrace it and enjoy it, have fun.
Great, thank you. So the next question comes from Kafsa. Kafsa, are you there?
I am indeed. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so my question to the panel is, how can we use the technology that we already have, both for fun and for learning? And do you have any recommendations of things that families can do together using their technology?
Jane, could you answer this first, please?
Yes. So if you're having problems with tech, then it's no fun. So what I'm going to focus on is using standard technology, so no special knowledge required. There is a document called Quick Fixes, which you can get afterwards with more details, and there's some specifics on there of free and low-cost technology solutions. But I'll just give you a taster of it now. So first and foremost, when you do get an inaccessible task, I would recommend trying to identify what the learning objective is, because then you can think about the equipment that you've got at hand that you can use already, and then think about how you might be able to address that learning objective, but just in a different way. So for example, watching a YouTube video or asking a smart speaker for information can be much easier than reading an information sheet that's been sent in PDF, for example. Or you might go around the house taking photographs of things to show that you understand a particular concept, such as the concept of parallel lines in maths. Another good strategy is group work. So using the phone or social media, children can work with their friends, and that can get around some accessibility issues. Sometimes you just need a very quick fix, and for some children, plugging something like a laptop into a television so they've got a much bigger screen can be all it can take. In terms of producing work, writing, typing or brailing responses are not the only ways to demonstrate learning. Some more fun ways, you might use taking photos, as I just mentioned, recording short videos, making voice recordings, either using a phone or a dedicated device, making movies with, for example, the iMovie app on the iPad, and they're all good and great fun, and you won't be waiting long before the children, well certainly if they're like my children at school anyway, pretending that they're YouTubers or they're news reporters or something. In all those cases, the files that you make, you can send off to teachers to show them that the learning is happening. Narrated audio books are really enjoyable and great fun, and they can add variety to reading tasks, even if you do have large print or braille books, and there are lots of devices and sources of books out there, so you should be able to find something free or inexpensive that's suitable. So if this is the sort of thing that you're looking for your solutions for home learning, then have a look at the document with a bit more detail, quick fixes.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much, and we will pass that to everybody at the end. Karine, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so I was just going to add 3 quick ideas for if you've got a child who has a vision impairment and also maybe additional needs, or just a younger child with vision impairment and want to include the siblings at home in a fun activity. So I've got 3 ideas which will be included in the handout at the end. One is the website Soundabout, which runs live interactive music sessions via the web on a Tuesday and Saturday, and they're incredibly popular and really good for children who have a sensory impairment or those younger children at home. The other is thinking about using technology. So we have a lot of story apps on the iPad and Android tablets, and trying to supplement those with real life objects and activities alongside them, so you can get the siblings involved in collecting the objects and items to go with the stories which are produced on technology. And there's a nice idea on collecting items together on the RNIB website in a treasure basket document. And my final recommendation would be to use YouTube and to see some of the ideas that Richard Hurstwood has on the YouTube website. He has his own channel and he has some great ideas and recommendations for some musical, sensory, visual stimulation, fun activities that you can use with technology. One I particularly liked was the use of a bouncy balls app, and the idea of the app is that you have to be as quiet as possible to stop all the items moving on the screen. I thought that might be a popular one with parents for a little while.
Great, thank you. That's great. Can we go to Robin?
Yeah, brilliant. Lots of great ideas there. A couple of more things, I guess, spring to mind, particularly for younger children. If you've got something like a Google Home smart speaker or an Amazon Echo, both of those you can buy for about £30. But if you have one of those at home, one of the things that children might find really useful is just asking the smart speaker, particularly Google Home, I might add, questions that they relate to their schoolwork. So, for example, my little one is learning about countries of the world and capital cities, and he can just do that by asking Google and asking for population information. And even at a more basic level for our toddler, who's just turned 2, he wants to hear animal noises. So he can actually ask Google, what sound does a hippopotamus make? And it will play a really good hippopotamus sound. Or he might want to know about a rockhopper penguin or whatever it is. I think the potential for learning really simple asks is huge, and it's growing by the day. That's the fantastic thing. So do experiment with what it's possible to do on these devices. Of course, if you want to know what the square root of a number is, it'll do that for you as well. But lots of fun and lots of educational value from these smart speakers.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Lucy, anything to add here?
One of the things that we do is we use like tablet devices like an iPad, and we turn them into sensory devices. So if you have got younger children, I would really recommend having a look at the free apps that you can get from Inclusive Technology. There's some really great cause and effect apps that you can use with the screen, which teaches your child how to start using a touch screen, and it can interact with the different types of sensory switches. And then the second one is more to do with the technology that we have in our homes, but actually we are living through a moment of history at the moment, and I think it would be fantastic if we could maybe capture that from a child's perspective, because that would then be shared in for future generations. And it's also, you may even find with some children, it's easier to talk to a device than it is to talk to a parent. So it could be really enlightening for you as how they're actually coping being in this situation at the moment.
What a great idea. Brilliant.
Love
Thank
it.
you. Darren.
Hi, yeah, so all sorts of things you can do. I love smart speakers as well. There's just endless fun, because again, it just comes down to what do you want to ask it. You know, it's totally up to you. Anything is possible. So yeah, I guess the real plus point that you might get with, say, one of the Amazon Echo smart speakers over a Google one at the moment is that it will play the Audible books. So if you have any audio books in your Amazon Audible library that's linked up to it, then you can just ask it to play them and it will do it. And it will also keep it in sync. So if you're maybe reading slightly on the Kindle side of things on a tablet or on a computer, or getting it to read that device to read it out to you, you can then stop and it will remember where you stopped. And if you then go to it and ask your your aid lady, Alexa, if you will, to read it to you, then she'll continue back exactly from the spot where you were. And there's all of these radio stations as well, and so many fun games. It seems that there's a new one every week. I quite like the music one at the moment, but again, you know,
I think what we're going to do, thank you, Darren, is we're going to summarise all this information in the notes. We also have some top tips on great apps to use and accessible games that kids can access as well and play with the family. So it'd be great. What we wished we'd had time to go through all this with you, but I'm very aware of the time now. But thank you everybody for those really fun ideas. And then what we'll do is that we'll send you all of the other fun ideas we have. And we've also got information on making TV listings accessible, streaming services with audio description, which is just so brilliant for visually impaired people. Would it be okay now with everybody if we open up to some audience questions? Ellen, could you tell us a bit about the questions that have come in on the comments?
There were a couple of sort of comments about schools not being able to bring equipment home from school, and kind of the questions around why that is, and just kind of general sort of observations that Google Classroom is quite difficult to manage, and that sometimes it's quite hard to get hold of QTVI. So I think those are the main sort of things that are coming up.
Can we just address those three topics then? We've got Google Classroom, kids not having the tech at home, and maybe parents can't get hold of the school and they can't get hold of the VI service, and so they feel stuck. Can I ask Karine and Jane to comment on that and really advise people what to do if parents can't get hold of the school or the QTVIs?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Charlotte. I really understand and empathise. That's really frustrating if you're trying to get hold of people and can't. I would suggest that the first port of call will be the local offer on your local authority website, but those are sometimes a bit impenetrable and not always easy to find the information you want. If you're struggling with that, please come to us at the children's team at RNIB, CYPF at rnib.org.uk. The details will be in the information Ellen sends out, and we can locate the contact details direct for your local VI service, or you can use our local offer QTVI website reference again, which Ellen will send out. If you are having trouble, even once you've got those numbers, again, come back to our team. We work really closely with QTVIs, and sometimes we're able to get through to people through a different number. We're really happy to support families to reach your QTVI, because both Jane and I have stressed how important your local QTVI is in resolving some of these issues around access and homeschooling.
Great, thank you. Lucy, do you want to add something from Guide Dogs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have our education service, and I would, recommend that they would also be able to help you with that. They would be able to maybe get in contact with QTVI. They would be able to source material for you to be able to approach them. And like everyone else, like the RNIB, they're there to listen. They're there to talk to you and talk you through and give you that support that you need. You aren't on your own. Lots of people are facing this issue at the moment. So please, the help is out there, whether it's us or whether it's RNIB, just make that phone call and have a conversation with us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Brilliant. Any more questions coming in? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question to the panel?
If we don't have any questions, can I give a really quick sort of top tip for so maybe more parents than children, Charlotte?
Yes, sure. Sure.
Okay, so lots of people don't know this, but sort of thinking about screen time, we've been talking about sort of people struggling to use technology a fair amount during this webinar so far. But actually, for some children and for some adults as well, talking from personal experience, your screen time is probably going to go up in a scenario like this. You know, if you're stuck at home, you're not going to school, maybe you are spending a bit more time on your iPhone, your iPad, or your laptop. What a lot of people I find don't take advantage of is that your Wi-Fi router is going to have settings built into it that let you restrict the internet access for a particular device to only certain hours of the day. So, you know, it's all well and good buying your child a smart speaker, which is a very good investment, I think. But actually, you know, if they're listening to music at 4 a.m. and not getting that presents a bit of a problem, doesn't it? So it's going to vary from router to router. So it's worth contacting your internet provider to walk them through how to enable it. But just a shout out that this is a very standard feature on essentially every router now. So you can do things like, say, I only want Ben's smart speaker to be able to access the internet between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., for example, if you are worried a little bit about how much time people are spending on these devices.
That's a very great top tip.
Really
Thank
is.
you very much, Ben. And for me personally, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Where do you find the NVDA guide?
Ooh, Ben.
I'm gonna answer with another question. What guide are you thinking about, Theo?
Like, I've downloaded NVDA, but I haven't used it yet. So I guess
okay.
a basic guide on basically command,
So,
and also setting up a Braille display and using the Braille display, and also ideas about how the Braille commands are different from NVDA and JAWS.
Okay, so there are a couple of things there. So and we can sort of link you to these things afterwards. Within MVDA, there is actually a built-in copy of the manual. So if you we'll sort of go into this in a bit more detail at another time maybe. But if you press the MVDA key plus N, and then you can choose help, and then there's user manual there, which is a great place to get started. Something that might be interesting for some other people on the call as well is that MVDA, the company behind MVDA, MV Access, have produced a guide for people who are switching to MVDA from JAWS as well. So, you know, it's a little bit of a sort of Marmite technology, I find. You know, so you either love them or hate them, but actually there are things you can do to use that transition. So we're going to have that guide linked to you as well if you are sort of having to teach your child two different products.
Thank you, Ben. Ellen?
Yeah, so we had another question about touch typing software. So I know Ben's already given a suggestion in the chat, but I just wondered whether if anybody else on the panel had suggestions.
Teresa, do you have something to add on touch typing?
I think Ben answered with the one that I really like, which is IOTA Touch Typing, and that's not a free one, but it is adaptable, and just by increasing the font size you can make it totally accessible for yourself as well. Touch typing can be really boring as well to learn, which is something that I'd really point out, but 5 minutes every day will make a massive difference. And if you've got this time at the moment, I'd put in the effort so that when you go back to school or to college, you've got those skills there, and then start practicing them by typing a few emails and poems and short texts to people just to practice your skills. Yeah, IOTA Touch Type is one of my favorites. But if your visual impairment isn't too severe, there is a free one on the BBC website, which is Dance Mat Typing. And that's quite a fun, playful one to have a look at. But that really does depend on your visual impairment, but worth a look anyway.
Just to point out that IOTA actually talks as well, so it's great. As you say, Teresa, lots of options for magnification and contrast. But if you do need speech, it will talk to you as well.
Just to let you know, for touch typing, I've been using a thing called Typability, and that's been working very well for accessibility because it's been designed to work with JAWS. So if you use that with JAWS, it works quite well.
Oh, that's brilliant advice. Thanks, Theo. We'll put that on the list.
All I was going to add, and I know this is dependent on getting hold of your QTBI, is that a lot of services use specific touch typing programs in their schools and in their service and recommend those. So unless if you're hoping to be able to start and complete a touch typing program through lockdown, if we're going to be in lockdown that long, then that's one thing. But if it's going to be a longer term thing, then you might want to try and pick up that conversation with your QTBI to make sure you're using one that's compatible with local systems and things. It would be a shame to start one and then have to get used to another. And they do tend to be vision impairment specific, as Ben and Teresa have said, they vary on accessibility. But I know that relies on getting hold of your QTBI.
Great, thank you. Great. Are there any more questions, Ellen?
There's a question on Google Classroom in the chat. I don't know whether,
yes.
Shall I just address that really quickly?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm not going to fully answer it, but probably somewhere to go. So I think there are issues around Google Classroom and the materials that staff are putting up on there. And I think in order to find out whether it's Google Classroom that's the problem or whether it's the materials that are being uploaded, I think this is something where the QTBI could come in and try and sort that out with teachers and give them the knowledge and skills they need to actually make the original materials accessible. And it may be that the original materials were pretty accessible before they were made ready for Google Classroom. They can just be emailed directly out to students, or maybe there's another way for them to access. So I think that's one thing that could be done. And I think that there's going to be advice going up for people to read about how to access PDFs and convert them into accessible formats. So we haven't had time to cover that, but I believe that will be in the documentation that's going to be available after this webinar.
Great, thank you very much. And we are going to do a bit of research with some of the young people that we know who are using Google Classroom right now and find out how they feel about it, because we know that, you know, young people are feeling slightly excluded sometimes, or maybe not, and some are really loving it and they're accessing it. So we're going to try and get some opinions from the young people themselves who are actually using it, and we can link to that in the notes as well. That's great. Any more questions? Last chance.
Just one final little tip on Alexa on Amazon Echo. There is a mode which might be helpful for families at this time, which is called whisper mode. And if you simply whisper something to your device, a question, what it will do is it will say, I think you're whispering. When you whisper, would you like me to whisper back? So if you're in a situation where you're sharing a room, for example, it's possible for someone to make a command really nice and quietly without disturbing another person. Super helpful.
Okay, thank you.
And literally to start that up, literally all you need to do is whisper a question to your Amazon Echo device, and it will kick in.
Oh, that's amazing. They are alive. They can hear us. That's great. Thank you, everybody. Before we go, I'd like to whiz around the panel and just get a sort of a summary, very briefly, if you could say what support is on offer, and then we will link all the details. So in terms of tech, Thomas Pocklington Trust, what have you got on offer? What can help families?
Yeah, so we have the Vital Tech website, and so you can get to that from online. The address is just Vital Tech, so that's all one word, vitaltech.org.uk. And what we have on there is just really kind of hopefully easy to read information, kind of giving you a sort of an idea of the sorts of technology that is available to assist blind partially sighted people.
Thank you very much. AbilityNet, Teresa and Alex.
Hi, yes, we've got quite a few links on our website. So we've got My Computer My Way. That tells you how to set up your computer dependent on your needs. So it gives you plenty of information and talks you through how to adjust your computer to suit you. We've also got links to free services, and that's to support you with advice within your home or to do with your computer. We've also got fact sheets on which will look at maybe adapting your phone, gives you some good guides on adapting your computer as well, and fact sheets as well with regards to making accessible documents.
Thank you. Lucy, guide dogs.
I would suggest going on to our website. If you go to the Children's Services, you'll find information about our grant service for technology and our second grant service, which is for sensory items. I think the main thing to say is we don't means test on our grants, so we're quite open. We will look at anything from our iPad for another 5-year-old right the way up to 18. And on the larger items, we'll work with other organisations like Victor, who have a grants programme, to try and secure you funding. And as I said before, we're really trying to improve our process to get that equipment out to you quicker. So take a look at the information, and if you've got any inquiries, just email us and we'll try and answer them for you.
Thank you very much. RNIB?
Yeah, so rnib.org.uk, our website. Darren's also mentioned Vital Tech, which is a great source of info that we've collaborated on. And also our helpline, which is 0303 123 9999, Facebook and YouTube. And also RNIB Connect Radio, which has a very good tech-related program, which is running on a weekly basis. And you should check that out. And yeah, keep in touch. And thanks very much for joining.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to just go to our mentors, Ben and Kafsa. Have you got a top tip or support advice you could give out to everybody? Kafsa.
Kafsa's had to leave the meeting,
okay.
but Ben is still here.
Yeah. So, I suppose just as a bit of a general tip, don't feel like you have to rush into learning new technologies. I see some people learning how to use screen readers, and some people understandably come in with the attitude that they need to learn all the hotkeys and all the gestures that a screen reader supports. And to be honest, firstly, it's overwhelming, and secondly, it's actually completely unnecessary. You know, if we talk about voiceover, which we heard Robin demo earlier, to be honest, you can do sort of a good 95% of all the stuff that you'll need to do using voiceover from just 3 or 4 different gestures. So there are other ones, but actually they just help you become more efficient in it. So what I would say is learn the basics, and then just spend a couple of weeks really getting confident with the basics. And when you feel like you've got the hang of it, and you feel like you're ready to move on, that's when you should start to look at the more advanced things. But don't do it at the beginning, because you're setting yourself up to make it a lot harder than it needs to be for you.
Thank you very much. That's very reassuring. I've been using speech for 20 years and I still don't know most of the commands. My best friend is the down and up cursor key. You'll get there in the end. Thank you, Ben, and thank you very much to everybody on the panel for all the support and advice you've given out tonight. I hope this has been a good introduction for some of you. If you'd like to know more information, do get in touch. We will be sending out all the notes, linking to everybody, so don't worry if you've missed anything. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all the panel, and a huge thank you to everybody for attending tonight. We know such uncertain times we're living in, and I hope you enjoyed the session. And yes, please everybody just stay safe. Ellen, would you like to add anything before we leave?
What we'll do is we'll lift all that really useful information that's been in the chat and put it in the notes that we'll have for that'll be shared with everyone afterwards. So all those resources will be in there. All those links to as many things as we can will be in there. Contact information for all the sort of the services that we've got panelists this evening, and we'll make it as comprehensive as we can to try and include as much information as we possibly can. Please stay in touch. We've got a few more sort of online things coming up. We have youth forums for young people, and we have parent support groups for parents as well, going on every Friday. So you can find information about all our online events on our social media and on our website.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ellen, for organising, and we really look forward to getting to know you and seeing you again. Thanks so much for coming.